Hello. Welcome to these candidate forums presented by the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County through TV Tacoma. I am Liz Kernitz-Thurlow of the League of Women Voters. Both Bailey Wombold, also of the League, and I will be moderating these forums, and we are happy to be once again working with TV Tacoma. The League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County wishes to acknowledge that we live on the ancestral lands of the Coast Salish peoples, surrounded by their traditional waters in the shadow of Mount Tahoma. We actively seek inclusive and respectful partnerships that honor Indigenous cultures, histories, identities, and current realities. The general election is Tuesday, November 4th. All ballots in their signed envelopes must be in drop boxes or postmarked by 8 p.m. on November 4th. Our vote is our voice. Please use yours. In this year's general election, we will be electing a new mayor, 4 Tacoma City Council seats, at-large position 6, and council districts 2, 4, and 5, 1 position on the Tacoma Civil Service Board, 1 Tacoma School District Number 1 Director, 3 Port of Tacoma Commissioners, positions 1, 2, and 4, 3 positions on the Metropolitan Park District of Tacoma, a Pierce County Council District 5 representative, and a new Pierce County Charter Review Commission. We do not interview candidates for Charter Review or Pierce County Council on this program. This is a big, important election. Don't forget to vote. If you're not yet a registered voter, you can register at the Pierce County Auditor's Office or at public libraries. Because we are the League and nonpartisan, we will not present forums when only 1 candidate would attend. Our forums are covering Port Position 4, Tacoma Mayor, Tacoma Council at-large Position 6, and Tacoma Council 2 and 4, and all 3 Parks District races. Please watch these forums, read your voters' pamphlet, check candidates' websites and news organizations, attend forums at which candidates are speaking, and make yourself an educated voter. Bailey Wombold and I will both be moderating forums, some separately, some together. Questions have been prepared by Bailey, me, and other members of the League of Women Voters of Tacoma-Pierce County. The general election is on Tuesday, November 4th. You may mail your ballot or put it in a drop box. Be sure to get it in a drop box or postmarked by 8 p.m. on that night. And please, don't forget to vote. Welcome to this forum for Port of Tacoma. My name is Liz Kernitz-Thurlow for the League of Women Voters, and with me is Bailey Wombold, also from the League. We will be the moderators for this forum. The Port has 5 commissioners. There are 3 Port Commission positions up for election this year. The candidates for position 1 are John McCarthy and Tim Payne. Only Tim Payne agreed to come, and the League cannot do forums with only 1 candidate for a position. For position 2, the candidates are Dick Marzano and Morgan Alexander. As only Dick Marzano responded yes, we cannot, unfortunately, hold a forum for that position either. So, for position 4, the candidates are J.T. Wilcox and Cyrus Donato. Welcome to both of you. These are 4-year terms, and the election will be on Tuesday, November 4th. Your ballot must be in a drop box or postmarked by 8 p.m. on that day. Each candidate has up to 2 minutes for an opening statement. We begin in ballot order, so J.T. Wilcox will make the first opening statement.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you to you and your organization for allowing this opportunity for people to share their thoughts in a forum that isn't threatening. It isn't going to turn into a shout fest. I appreciate your rules also. My name is J.T. Wilcox, and I'm running for the Port of Tacoma Commission because the Port of Tacoma is perhaps the most important generational public asset in our local community, in all of Pierce County. I care about generational assets because that is my own family background. I grew up on the banks of the Nisqually River over by Harts Lake, and my family business is called Wilcox Farms, and I'm very proud of the fact that my son is the first member of the 5th generation of our family to have the responsibility for stewarding that family asset. We should look at the Port of Tacoma in exactly the same way. This is an asset that is critical for the future of our economy now, for jobs that pay very well, and if we do a good job, it's going to be critical for our children and our grandchildren. It's there for jobs. It's there for the economy. The job of the commission is to steward and safeguard that asset. I spent about 20 years as part of my family business management. I then moved on to 14 years in the Washington State House of Representatives. And I think if you ask people that served there, you'll find that I was a good steward of my responsibility for my constituents in the 2nd District there. Thanks.
Cyrus Donato.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Cyrus Donato, running for seat number 4 for the Tacoma Port Commission. But really, it's really should maybe be called the Port of Pierce County, as it's a county-wide election and a municipal entity for the entire county. Really appreciate JT agreeing to this forum, and of course, really appreciate everything the League of Women Voters does to really facilitate interactions with candidates in the local community. That's so valuable for our democracy. Really, the port is at a pivotal moment. Really, some exciting, innovative opportunities at the port. We have the joint relationship with the Puyallup tribe for a new break bulk terminal. We have the continued relationship within the Northwest Seaport Alliance. That's what governs our cargo, containerized break bulk autos between Seattle and Tacoma, so that we don't compete against each other. And then, of course, we have our new Maritime Skills Center, a new opportunity with a joint relationship with the Tacoma Public Schools that's going to provide career training for young folks in the maritime industry. I've really spent a career at the intersection of maritime labor rights, maritime regulation, and public service. From my time in the Coast Guard, I recovered 1.5 million gallons of oil during the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf, to overseeing multi-million-dollar dry docks in Colombia and Mexico, to drug interdictions and humanitarian missions in the Caribbean. But I also spent nearly a decade in the commercial maritime industry, managing client relations, data analytics, and business development. Really, running for this office is deeply personal. My immigrant grandfather, he died in an industrial accident at the Port of Tacoma in 1973. So I really fully understand the role that the port does to support the 40,000 good-paying jobs for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we come to questions. We'll tell you how much time you're allowed for each. The order of answering will rotate for each question, so Cyrus Donato will answer the first question first. Let's start with the obvious. Shipping is down. What can or does the port need to do about this? And we'll be sticking with this topic, so just take 1 minute.
Okay. Okay, perfect. I see the time there for 1 minute. Yeah, I think really right now we see the pressure of these inconsistent tariffs that are occurring. As a frontline port worker, maritime worker, I kind of see the stress every day on our system, and really that needs to be tackled in a couple different approaches. Really engaging with our congressional delegation and telling the story of how the Port of Tacoma is so valuable for our community. Work to grow cargo diversification. I have a lot of contacts in European markets, and I want to expand upon those to really encourage trade delegations for the port. I mean, a lot of people don't realize this, but essentially the United States is the breadbasket of the world, and I can see the demand for our great quality corn, soybean, agricultural products really supplying both the Asian, Chinese, and Japanese markets. Thank you.
Thank you. J.T. Wilcox.
Thanks. Anytime you're working on a complex problem, it always takes a team to help solve that. And I did that at Wilcox Farms frequently, working with our congresspeople and senators in Washington, D.C. And of course, when I was in Olympia, I had the opportunity to do that as well. We need to prove that the Port of Tacoma and our partners at the Port of Seattle are the most reliable port in the United States. We need to compete against our other West Coast competitors so that even if it is a difficult competitive situation, we are doing best for the people that pay our salaries here. At the same time, we need to put together teams to go and pitch to both foreign and domestic shippers. I've done that pretty much all my life, both in elections and in trying to keep my family business alive. It's a team process. We can do it as a team.
Thank you. Bailey Wambold will ask the next question. You guys will answer.
Yeah, thank you. For this next question, we will have 90 seconds, and we will start with J.T. Wilcox. The port has long been described as the economic engine of Pierce County, as we've all heard time and again. What happens to the port and to Pierce County if the decrease in shipping continues? And what are your fears?
Well, I try not to have fears. These are challenges, and you learn in life that you can't. First of all, you can't wait for them to appear. You have to prepare in advance, and second of all, you have to quickly make a plan. Anybody can make a plan. Then you have to execute on it. So as shipping volumes decrease, we had a little bit of this in the previous question. I think we immediately put together the team. And when I say team, I don't mean just the council or the commission. I mean our labor partners. I mean our tribal partners. I mean our business partners. And explain to Republicans and Democrats. It takes both parties in Washington, D.C., and I've been there and done this, to help them create ways to mitigate for us. And then we put together similar teams, work with shippers, understand that we can't change the national situation, but we can address our local situation by being the most competitive port on the West Coast and proving that we're going to be the most reliable. And you only do that as part of a team.
Thank you. Cyrus Donato.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really timely question. I think really the core issue to decrease the issue in shipping is really we can maybe reintroduce some other previous clients that the port had. In the past, we had the American Cruise Line, and that offered trips that stopped in Tacoma as part of the Great Puget Sound cruise in the late 2010s and early 2020s. But really, with COVID issues, that's put some cancellation on those crews. So I like to work to reintroduce that. I think it's really fundamentally important that we maintain the industrial character of the port, that we create a unifying strategic plan, not just between Seattle and Tacoma, because that's essentially what the Northwest Seaport Alliance is, but really to address all the ports and work collaboratively together. Port of Olympia, Port of Everett, Port of Bellingham. I think we see that in other jurisdictions. In Vancouver, we we see that in Louisiana, we see that in Virginia, where there's more buy-in at the state level, and I think having a collaborative approach will really help ameliorate some of these issues with cargo decrease. Because I mean, fundamentally, right now, let's be honest, Vancouver, Canada is kicking our butt. There's 30 to 35 deep draft vessels there right now. Only 7 here in the Puget Sound between Seattle and Tacoma.
Thank you.
You already started to answer this one, so only take another minute on it. Do you see ways the port can combat some of the effects of the decline by doing something new? What? Cyrus Donato, so you can just keep going.
Well, perfectly. Yeah, so really kind of hit some of the core items here. But really, I have really spent my career maintaining the integrity of our marine transportation system. And I think someone with frontline maritime expertise who service in the Coast Guard, as well as a Coast Guard Reserve officer, partnerships with our both state and federal regulators, Washington State Department of Ecology, for example. I think maintaining those relationships are so fundamentally important. I think having a relationship, a community advisory board to have input is very valuable. We see that in the Port of Olympia, to have a labor advisory board, so we can have more formalized structures in place to engage with all the port partners. Thank you.
Thank you. J.T. Wilcox?
Okay, well, the Port has started one very important thing in partnership with the Tacoma School District, and that is making a long-term commitment to creating a newer, younger workforce, not to replace, well, yes, to replace the old force as they age out, but to supplement them as well. And I think that because blue-collar employment has been less attractive in the past, it's important that we be doing that. Second of all, I'm a sports fisherman, and I have spent a lot of time in some of the great sports fishing and pleasure boating places in the Northwest, especially in Canada and Vancouver and Campbell River. And the Port of Tacoma has had a history of doing that, but that's a tremendous job creator and enhancing our status as a destination for sports fishermen and pleasure boating, I think is an absolutely viable alternative if we're facing a loss in freight volume.
Thank you.
For this next question, we'll have 90 seconds, and we're going to start with J.T. Wilcox. And I think this is going to be a really great one for the audience as well. What are Port Commissioner responsibilities, and how can they impact port activities?
Well, there is a lot of misunderstanding, I think, about what a Port Commissioner does. You hear all the time that the Port Commission runs the port, and you get a lot of questions about, well, are you going to do this, or are you going to do that? The truth is, the port operations are largely run by tenants. And it's important that people understand that the Port of Tacoma Commission, more than anything else, operates as a landlord. And it is very important for the port to be seen as a reliable landlord. We hear a lot about whether landlords are reliable or unreliable, to keep the very best tenants in port industrial and commercial property. And maybe even more important than that is to constantly looking as far ahead as possible so that we are redeveloping the land that's vacant, sometimes vacant because it's contaminated, and recruiting the very best tenants that will not just pay a good rental income to the taxpayers of Washington, taxpayers of Pierce County, but also create the greatest number of high-quality jobs. I'm a believer that the nature of this asset is that it is industrial and commercial property. That's scarce. We should maintain that commercial and industrial character and defend it.
Thank you. Cyrus Donato, 90 seconds.
I think it's really important that we work to address issues at Terminal 7. We have some derelict cranes there. We lost a contract to Westwood Shipping to the Port of Everett. So I think funds need to be used to update some of the infrastructure there. But really, it's very exciting in the state of Washington. Port commissioners are elected by the voters. That's very fundamentally unique across our nation. Most port commissioners in other jurisdictions are appointed by the governor. So as port commissioners, we're directly responsible to the voters, to the electorate. Really, I think fundamentally the core function of the port commissioner is to set a strategic vision for the port and really serve as a check and balance for the ideas that are presented from really the hardworking, dedicated professional staff, really a lot of high quality, very, very smart people. So I, of course, will affirm my commitment to supporting them and respecting their endeavors. But our port commission is so really fundamental to our community to provide that that strategic guidance and interface. The port also sets taxes. The millage rate is 13 cents per thousand, and that translates into about $75 if your house is about 500,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Neither of you is on the Port Commission, but as you are running for it, I assume that you are following what is going on in the port. Looking out my window the last couple of weeks, because, yeah, I have a water view, I see more ships going by. I actually saw 2 ships passing each other last week. Is business coming up again? Is this expected to continue or improve, or does no one know? Up to a minute, less if you don't need it. Cyrus Donato.
Yes, perfect. I've been attending the Port Commission meetings. Yes, the traffic is up in within the last few months. It is important to note that the loaded import containers are down nearly 20% in the last in the last year. And then there's some discrepancies, right, within our Northwest Seaport Alliance, where we've identified within the last 10 years about $159 million more has been spent in Seattle over Tacoma. So, of course, I would want to work to kind of equalize that investment. And we're seeing issues in Seattle where they're closing Terminal 30, they're trying to build housing there, and they've just sold or given Pier 46 to the U.S. government. So I would work to make sure that we maintain our port integrity here in Tacoma.
Thank you.
Well, I think we should always regard our port business as something that's subject to market, is subject to government impacts, and we should never take volumes for granted. Short-term oscillations are not long-term trends. However, I did notice, I believe it was announced yesterday, that worldwide the rental rates, the freight rates for containers are down at lows that haven't been seen since around 2020. And so that tells you that nationwide and worldwide freight volume is beginning to decline, and we should be very concerned about that. It's also important to remember that the Port of Tacoma is not only about ocean freight. It is a landlord for a number of important commercial and industrial users. And if we ignore those, if we don't promote that use, then we will be ignoring the stable use that brings in a huge amount of revenue for us.
Thank you.
Thank you, and you'll get to continue with that line of thought, J.T. Wilcox. For this next question, we'll have 90 seconds. The port owns about 2,400 acres of property in the tide flats. It is not all used for marine cargo. Because of current questions about shipping and tariffs, are there any new thoughts about other uses for some of the land in the port to increase business and income? Do you have any, and should we be looking harder at other uses for some of the land?
Yes. First, I would like to go back to what I said a little bit earlier. There's 2,400 acres down there. We're not going to be making any more of those acres. They are very strategically located, and it's very important that we do not convert those uses into something that doesn't contribute in the same impactful way to the economy. So I want to keep those commercial and industrial. Some of the empty ground is there because mitigation hasn't taken place yet. In the legislature, I was often involved in discussions regarding the capital budget where most of the dollars come for doing those major mitigations. And I would hope that if I was elected, I'd be part of a team that explains to the decision makers in Olympia, who are mostly my friends, that Tacoma is very strategic, and it's important that we create the best possible environment for new clients. And again, these industrial and commercial non-freight uses are the stable revenue and the most stable job source that we have in the port area. And then once you have a clean site, you can go out and strategically pitch to the very best tenants.
Thank you. Cyrus Donato.
I wanted to highlight really one of the core operational efficiencies in the Port of Tacoma is how the tenants are actually subsidiaries of the shipping lines. We see that at Washington United Terminal, Husky, as well as Everport or Pierce County terminals. And that kind of business model is a little bit different than what they have in Seattle, where they have a third-party terminal operator. So that actually creates a little better or incentive for Tacoma. With regards to attracting clients, I think we see the expansion and really kind of the overflow up in the Port of Everett at the Naval Station Everett, where some of those tenant military units are trying to find space. I think we need to work to attract them, and we can provide some space for them in the Port of Tacoma. And then I think really the visionary of the Port of Tacoma is using we can really use it as green energy hubs in terms of hydrogen and really some of those new renewable energy businesses and attract those in the port. The port is really an important environmental steward, and that relationship with the community is one of the hallmarks of the port. It's really an environmental example for how ports can be run across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cyrus Donato will answer first. You will have up to 90 seconds. In the past few years, there have been multiple reports of foreign sailors experiencing wage theft, ship owner abandonment, poor working conditions, and other forms of abuse. What policies or practices would you support to ensure that all seafarers are treated fairly while in the Port of Tacoma?
Yes, a very important, timely question. I think this really goes back to a fundamental structural issue. There's really 4 core international governing conventions, and one of those is the Maritime Labor Convention. And unfortunately, the United States is not signatory to that convention, but within this MLC, it calls for a port welfare committee where different players, the Seamen's Church and the Seamen's Center and Port and the labor representatives could all have a seat at the table to kind of address those issues. I think core too is that the port needs to be more aware of those issues, and then of course plugging kind of some of these issues and relationships with our regulatory partners, regular federal oversight partners, as well as the seafarers union representation. I kind of work some of these issues in my career. I am a labor representative for foreign seafarers in distress, so I do work these issues on a daily basis, and it is kind of frustrating to see some of the poor working conditions that can exist in our marine transportation system. Thank you.
Thank you, J.T. Wilcox.
Well, thank you, and I think my friend Cyrus maybe left out some things that he's really qualified about. He has spoken eloquently about this issue in the past, and if I were elected, I would hope that he'd be answering my calls so that I could ask for his expertise in this arena. I've been in a lot of elections, and in the end, I've always, I think, been friends with people that were opponents. And clearly, this is abuse of workers is one of the major reasons that unions exist, and this is one where we should be listening to unions carefully. There's also a long, millennia-long history of abuse of people involved in the seafaring industry. So we can't be in denial about the possibility that this happens, and as public officials, we should be very aware. And as I said a little bit earlier, if I were the one that was elected, I would want to be talking to Cyrus, and I hope he would feel free to give me a call when there's a concern that maybe I wasn't as aware of as I should have been.
Thank you.
This will be another 90-second question, and we will start with J.T. Wilcox. As we've heard a few times now, the Port is working on developing a maritime skills center for Pierce County youth. How do you think this should work? Who should be eligible and of what age? When could they be there? And what kinds of skills and education should be given? Also, who should do the training? A lot of questions to answer. You have 90 seconds.
Yeah, in my mind, this is very much like skill centers that have been set up around the state. And there's at least one that I'm aware of because I represented that area. That's the skill center out near Frederickson. And this is a similar model. I believe that the Tacoma School District is the lead organization here. And it should be directed towards skills that are useful in the port. And that's not just tying knots and, the kinds of things that you think of for sailors. It's all of the industrial skills that people are paid a lot to do. And I am 100% sure that our trade unions are involved in that, and I would encourage their continued involvement. I believe that any child in Pierce County is eligible. However, I think it can be kind of difficult to get there. And since I've spent 14 years representing people in more remote areas in East Pierce County, I would ask that we work hard to find ways to enhance transportation so that kids from all over Pierce County find it easier to go there. And, the other thing I think that the commission can do is be ambassadors. I love going to schools and talking. And I love talking about the kinds of vocational training that I got as a child. This would be one of the things I'd want to feature.
Thank you.
So I hit all the points there.
Absolutely. So the Port is working on a maritime skills center for Pierce County youth. How do you think this should work? Who would be eligible? Of what age? When could they be there? What kinds of skills and education should be given? And who should be doing the training?
Yes, thank you. I just want to also mention with the thousands of seafarers that come to our port, I think it's fundamentally important that we connect them to really a lot of the business opportunities. I think they pump a lot of money into our economy, both at the Tacoma Mall, because fundamentally at the end of the day, here you can get really high quality goods at a very affordable price that you just can't get in places like Bangladesh or India or Ukraine. The Maritime Skill Center is like I said earlier, really an innovative idea that is really an example for the nation. I think one of the core skills that could be done there is shipboard firefighting. I think that is a very important skill set, and as we see really devastating shipboard fires in New Jersey, I think making sure that everyone is aware of the importance and those critical skills. I think the core age is going to be in the high school, middle school arena. And I think they're going to have curriculum development to highlight really all these important maritime skills. And like I said, I'm really excited about this prospect, and I'm going to do everything as I can as a port commissioner to help facilitate and shepherd that process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask 2 questions. They're sort of related. Cyrus Donato will answer the first one first. What is the actual relationship between port commissioners and the running of the port? Up to 90 seconds, please.
The actual relationship between the port commissioners
and how the port runs.
Okay. Well, the Port Commission is like a oversight body in very similar fashion to a school board or a city council. That ideas are presented to the board, to the Port Commission, and they ask questions, they engage, they flush out ideas, and then they can also introduce their own policy proposals and raise questions. So it's this interchange of ideas that allows this municipal entity to flourish. Because at the end of the day, the port is basically, as voters, you're a shareholder. You're a shareholder in this municipal corporation, and you subsidize it. We are subsidizing the port. I think one day we can work to decrease that. We've seen a decrease in taxes of 26%, and I like to see that decrease further. But really, that taxes are used to both service the nearly $500 million in debt, as well as environmental remediation projects at the port. Thank you.
Thank you. J.T. Wilcox.
Well, I think the first most important thing that you do as a port commissioner is you represent the voters. There's almost 1 million people in Pierce County, and they trust the commissioners to represent their voice and listen. And sometimes they want things that are a little bit out of the purview of the commission, and you have to be able to explain that as well. You are the board of directors, absolutely right, and you represent the folks that are investing their hard-earned tax dollars in it, and you want to create the greatest return in terms of jobs and revenues, and you want to protect that for the long term. In order to do that, I think probably the most important thing that you do is you hire the best staff possible. You start out with the CEO, and then you cooperate with the CEO on the other senior staff. And then you oversee and hold them accountable. And just as importantly, if you're used to dealing with staff, is you support them to the greatest degree that you possibly can. It's important that they understand that they and we as commissioners, if that happens for me, are on the same team. And I've had a lot of experience in that kind of collaborative management. I'm looking forward to that part of it. And then, of course, there's also the responsibility of sitting on the board of directors for the Seaport Alliance with the Seattle Commission.
Thank you. And I am not going to ask another question right now because Bailey Wambold is.
Yes, hello. For this next question, we'll have 90 seconds, and we'll start with J.T. Wilcox. And this ties into Tacoma, Port of Tacoma, but the climate is changing. Our summers are hotter and drier. The rainy season is shorter. Our mountain snowpacks are dwindling. What actions or policies do you think the Port of Tacoma should or could implement to help the city and our region as a whole adapt to climate change and mitigate its impacts? 90 seconds.
Okay, well, thank you. And it's interesting. I was having a discussion with my family about some timberland that unfortunately is having a disease problem, is going to be harvested, and what are we going to plant there? And it turns out that foresters are kind of at the front lines of what is happening with climate. And we're probably going to be planting a different variety of tree than we would have had we had that discussion 30 or 40 years ago. I think, first of all, it's critical to take a careful, dispassionate, an objective look at what are the impacts going to be for the Port of Tacoma. To what extent are sea levels going to rise? How is that going to impact our operations? And then, you know, we have to be in a very long-term planning mode to be sure that our investments will be suitable for those impacts. I don't think that's going to be easy, and I don't think it's going to be easy to keep the politics out of it. I would hope that this would simply be about, here's how many centimeters or inches, high tides are going to be, and here's what we're going to have to do to deal with those things.
Thank you. Cyrus Donato.
Yes, I would also say a really core function of the Port Commission, as JT alluded to, is the relationship with the Northwest Seaport Alliance. So not only are we a port commissioner, a Port of Seattle commissioner, but we're managing director at the Northwest Seaport Alliance. So in a way, we are also not only representing the 1 million citizens of Pierce County, but the 2.3 million citizens of King County. And maintaining that relationship is, as I said, so fundamentally important. In terms of what we can do environmentally, I think that we need to focus on increasing our green fleet policy. Since 2008, the port has transitioned its fleet to hybrid vehicles, and we need to continue to expand that electric fleet. I think one of the core strategies is the Northwest Ports Clean Air Strategy, and that's really in collaboration with other ports. The strategy aims to achieve a net zero emissions by 2050 to support cleaner air and address global temperature rise. I think we can increase that timeline to make it more aggressive. And really, I think what the port has been really all about is habitat restoration. We see that at the Lower Wapatu Creek Habitat Project, the Upper Clear Creek Mitigation Bank, and the Place of Circling Waters. And I would also say increasing the green canopy, tree canopy, is also critical to support decrease in CO2 emissions. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you both. That was our final question for today. Thank you both so much for being here and answering our questions. Now we will move to closing statements. You will each have 1 minute for your closing statements, and these will be given in reverse ballot order. So Cyrus Donato will start. You have 60 seconds.
Thank you. And I really want to say, of course, thank you to the League of Women Voters, but also thank you to JT in this process over the last several months. He's really, truly been a commensurate professional. And really thank you for those kind comments earlier too. As I said, I think the port is at a pivotal moment. It really needs experienced leadership that understands both the operational complexities and the human impact of maritime commerce, and leadership that can help really repair the fractured relationship with the Northwest Seaport Alliance. I've really spent my career upholding the integrity of the marine transportation system, and I've earned support from our community leaders, Pierce County Executive Ryan Mello, House Speaker Jenkins, most of the members of the Pierce County Council, as well as state representatives and community organizations like Pierce County Central Labor, the Longshore Union, Washington Conservation Action, and the Washington Education Association. Thank you so much.
Thank you. JT Wilcox.
Well, thank you. When I first ran for public office 16 years ago, my dad said, JT, we've got to go talk to Billy. And he was talking about Billy Frank Jr. And we met in Tacoma. Billy told me a long story about all the defeats that he'd had, and then all the wins that he'd had in court and in the legislature. And he said that can all go away in the blink of an eye unless we reach a place where we have convinced the people that are opposing us. And I've never forgotten that. I've been able to tell that story many times. And it's the way that I've tried to conduct myself in public office. I am really happy that I've been able to follow in my dad's footsteps in being helpful in many ways in salmon recovery. That's why the Puyallup tribe endorsed me, and I also believe this is nonpartisan, and I'm proud of the fact that former Governor Chris Gregoire, a Democrat, has endorsed me. So have Bill Bryant and Dave Reichert, former Republican candidates.
Thank you. Thank you both once again for being here. This has been excellent. And for the audience, once again, the candidates for Port Commission Position 4 in ballot order are J.T. Wilcox and Cyrus Donato. The election is Tuesday, November 4th. Please remember to, your ballot must be in a drop box or postmarked by 8 p.m. on the 4th. Thank you for watching, and please do not forget to vote.